vobiscum. Happy Sunday. I just got back from the Methodist church that I just went to, where I met Vicky and Linda a couple weeks ago when I was going to a free little library. And I have my camera. I'm actually in my bathroom because I like the backdrop and I'm trying out some new stuff that my girlfriend got me, including this little camera I got that like deep tracks me and like kind of goes where I go. Anyways, so I wanted to make a quick video before I headed out for the week and talk about how it was at the Methodist church. And I was looking through my, because every place I go, every church, I usually try to get one of these cards. And so I have a ton of them, right? I have my LDS ones. I have this one's from Christmas, my Christmas Mass with Adam. I believe that was one. Yep, Midnight Mass, got that one. Anyways, I was looking through here because I was trying to think back in my memories if I had any direct memories or experiences with the Methodist Church. And I recognized this symbol, and I actually attended the Helotes Hills Methodist Church, the Prickly Pear, on December 19th. It was a free concert that was done. But these cards go into it, so I'm going to talk about that first. So going into the service, it was beautiful. I went to the traditional service because that's the one that Vicky and Linda talked to me about, and I wanted to go see the traditional service. And right off the bat, going into the building, it reminded me of basically a Catholic Mass or a Catholic parish type setting, stripped away of all the symbolic relics, symbolic meaning, and just very foundational with like the open lighting, the wood, even the stained glass. It didn't have any motifs or anything painted on it. It was just geometric designs and a lot of natural light. And so one of the things actually that was really cool that I first noticed, and I'll put a picture on it so everyone can see, when you first walked into the sanctuary where the pulpit is, very beautiful. Behind it is all just natural light. And again, this reminded me of the one Catholic church I went to where it looked like all open light, and it looked like the nave of a ship, kind of like how they describe it in Catholicism, right? The shape of the nave or whatever. It looked like that. But behind it, with all this natural light, very simplistic, not much decoration, you have 4 banners, and they were in like red, so you already had an invocation of like the blood, the sacrifice of Jesus, that type of symbolic meaning with that color red they had. But on the banners, I thought it was very intriguing. I love this. The first one said, "Be filled with the Spirit." Then there's another one that said, "I will pour out my Spirit on all people." Then another one says, "He will baptize you with the Holy Spirit and fire." And then the final one said, "Our God is a consuming fire." So we see a very obvious coherent pattern there, a coherent meaning, a unified understanding or type of pillar that is present in Methodist and also just in Christianity in general, which is the Holy Spirit and then that symbolism of fire. And if you look at those, right, 3/4 of the banners mention literally the word spirit. You see spirit, spirit, spirit. And then you see in the other verse or the other banner, it talks about fire. And 2 of the banners that talk about fire, right? And so what does that fire represent? Well, if you look at one of the banners, it represents the spirit represents fire and the fire represents spirit. So I thought that was beautiful to have that there in the symbolism. And also it plays in because their logo itself, right? It looks like, I used to think that wasn't a fire. I thought it was like some sort of like raiment or like wardrobe type thing. But now that I've been there and saw the banners, I think now, that's representative of fire. That's not representative of some sort of robe or sash or thing like that. That is representative of the fire, the Spirit, things like that. So I thought that was beautiful. But the Sunday school, oh my gosh, it was so great. Because I coincidentally sat next to a random woman who was just rather active. Her name was Wanda, rather active in the church. And during like the shake hand song, she actually got up and got me one of these welcome bags for visitors. And I love when places do stuff like this because I got this little like "Come Grow With Us" seed. So it has a little seed in there in the shape of a cross, and it just talks about a welcome message. And you can plant this, and it's filled with biodegradable fibers and wildflower seeds. That's beautiful, right? Lots of symbolism you can invoke on stewardship, awareness with nature, taking care of having responsibility to nurture, to take care of something that you've been entrusted to, right? Goes into that. It has a little book here talking about some of the different ministries they have. And obviously I love reading the newsletters. And so I got a newsletter and another, I guess this is pamphlets on stuff again, like how they structure things. But one thing I love, they have the devotional guide and they include like a little journal here. It's just blank and empty. And inside it, they had a piece of paper that says, "May this journal become a place for you to write words that lead you in your growth with the Lord." And I thought that was beautiful. I was like, wow, what a meaningful gift, right? Because someone that's coming here, maybe they never thought about journaling. Maybe they never thought about writing your thoughts down, right? During the service, if you had thoughts that you wanted to write, you had a place to write it. So I was thankful that they had that little gift bag. And Wanda gave me that. Only had a couple little things in the bottom. Like a magnet and these little like coins that have little sayings on it saying, "Beloved, let us love one another." So I thought that was beautiful. Anyways, sitting next to Wanda, we started doing one thing during the service that I really liked, actually, was they recited the creed, the Nicene Creed, and they left in, because everyone's familiar, if anyone's aware with this, that the Nicene Creed mentions that the one Catholic Church, they had that still in there. So I think that's a beautiful tie-in and connection to Catholicism, right? The root, the origin, one of the earliest established frameworks as far as Christianity goes. So I thought that was beautiful, that even though they're Methodist, right, they're both fall within the Christian umbrella, the Methodists still honored that tradition, that heritage that allowed them to come forth in like present day. And so for me, I think that's like Catholicism, like this is like your kids being like proud of you for, or acknowledging you, being like, hey, we're recognizing our origins on where some of our understandings and interpretations come from, but now we've also taken that and expanded it even further, or created it meaning for our lives and from our perspective, right? And so I thought that was beautiful. But going into I went to the Sunday school with Wanda, and I loved it. They were ending a series on the book of Philippians. And so Paul's letters to the people when he was in jail kind of thing. And it reminded me actually of some of the tone and some of the things that arose from Joseph Smith when he was in the Liberty jail, which I'm going to get a chance to see in a couple weeks. I'm so excited about that for my trip to Missouri. So the tone and stuff, we were talking about the different meanings, because everyone's heard Philippians 4:13, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. We went into like the nuances on details of that. We went through overall themes in the book. Like one of the Sunday school teacher, which I found out they actually take turns doing the Sunday school, leading the lesson. And so she said she was the one that first started this series like 6 weeks ago, and she just happened to be the one that gets to end it or conclude the series in Philippians. And they were actually going to a book next week to discuss that and center lead their discussions based on that and tie it back to religion, the faith, and everyday experience. But in that, I'm jumping all over the place. First off, it was someone's birthday, so I got cake in the Sunday school, which is super awesome. So I had some pieces of cake, and then they also had like a coffee station, and Wanda was like, hey, I'm going to grab coffee. And so I just walked with her and just to get a little tour of the service or the facilities, because in the main meeting also, there was a mention of some beatitude or like a prayer walk. And again, it reminded me of Catholicism, the Stations of the Cross, because it was outdoors. So I ended up doing that after, and I want to touch on that in a little bit. But with Wanda, I saw in the church too, I thought it was a really beautiful display where it had like free Bibles kind of, or like literature associated with the Bible, that book, but it had adult, like juvenile and like youth sections and bins where you could take whatever your age or whatever perspective that is relevant to you. And so I thought that was really great. Going back into the room, going back into the Sunday school, people shared some beautiful stories of just going through opportunities in their life and how they're navigating it. And one woman I met in particular, oh, what was her name? It wasn't Christy. What was it? It might have been Christy. I took a picture. I sent her a text. Cynthia. Oh, I knew it was a C. Cynthia. She shared basically her testimony. It was like a room full of people sharing their testimony, if I was going to say in the LDS language. And it was just so beautiful to hear how they navigated those things, those opportunities, or whatever they found meaning in and wanted to share at that moment in time. And for Cynthia, like within the last month, or no, like the last week or two, she came in like 20 minutes late, apologized for that, and ended up later on in the Sunday school lesson sharing her testimony about how like her husband's going through a hard time with trying to keep up with some new laws that changed, actually like coincidentally associated with a dental license because her husband's a dentist. And so he's having trouble with that. He's also battling hip issues with health stuff. The daughter-in-law is going through a potential like divorce, things like so many moving pieces. The refrigerator broke. All this happened in the same week. And she's running around doing all these things. She had something else flood in her bathroom, and this was after she had prepared meals and was up till 2 a.m. getting stuff ready for a couple families that are her, within her immediate family, whether it's like a daughter-in-law, like a son or child or something like that. She was helping out with a bunch of different things and juggling all that. And one of the greatest things that she said was like, actually, at one point, she said it as like a passing note. She didn't even emphasize it because everything else, the whole list of things was kind of like her just letting out that pressure. But she said the one thing I was most proud about myself is that I never resorted to like negative language. I never said like, oh, like this is ridiculous. This is stupid. Like, why is this happening to me? She didn't curse. She didn't judge herself. She didn't judge others. She didn't blame anyone. She was just like, okay, I wanted to work on my endurance. She said she prayed to God, being like, please give me the fortitude and resilience and endurance to make it through this. And her coming in late, even though she came in late, I was like, hey, you need to recognize. And I told her, we ended up having like an hour-long conversation afterwards. I was like, you don't realize, like, you are proving to yourself, like, you are given the opportunity to test your thresholds of endurance. I was like, you are the complete version of like a modern day Job parable going on. And it's so beautiful that you can come in here and share that and you look like you're glowing. Like you look absolutely radiant. I would have had no idea you're doing all of those things are on your plate because of how well you're navigating, how well you're articulating yourself, how it shows a great depth of maturity and understanding and awareness of self-agency, resilience, meekness, humility, all those things. And I was just so impressed with her. So I ended up getting her number and just so many beautiful similarities with that. But after the service, or after the Sunday school, I went to the Beatitude Walk, where it's like the prayer walk. And I only noticed it because in the service, they had like the screen and there was like a video playing during the offering. And it showed just the like footsteps going towards a spot and like a little sign. And I saw like Station 1. And I was like, this looks like a Stations of the Cross thing, but it was just words. And so I leaned over to Wanda during the service and like, hey, what is this, like, where is that? And she told me where it is on the grounds. And so she pointed out to me when we were in the interlude between the service and Sunday school. And so she pointed it out to me there. But afterwards, I walked it, and it went around basically the entire perimeter of the church grounds, and it had 8 stations, and just walking through it and just reflecting and thinking about all the things I was seeing. I took some photos, actually. I don't want to look at the photos yet because I want to try to remember it from memory. But some of the things I noticed, right? The things that are talked about in the signs, like for instance, let me see. Let me look for one of them. I've tried to go through. Here's one. It says, "Blessed are the." This is Station 6. "Blessed are the pure of heart, for they will see God." So that's taking like an abstract concept, right? Blessed are the pure of heart, for they will see God. Okay, what does pure of heart mean? What does that look like? And along that trail, actually, you saw countless of examples over and over again along the trail of different types of behavior or things on the trail that tied back to the things on the side. So for instance, right, blessed are they that are pure of heart. I was walking down the trail and I saw something that looked like a snake skin. I thought it was a snake because it was like all woody and you know, like out in the sun and leaves and stuff. But I came up across it and it was right in the middle of the trail. It was a popsicle wrapper. And so for me, I was like, okay, what level of effort, what level of care is this demonstrating coming across this? This person that was walking this trail, that was coming through here on this prayer trail and just came from or was heading to the sign saying pure of heart. But then you come across this litter and you're like, what decision, what process did that person go through to think, or what decision or algorithm were they running in their head where they threw this on the ground and left it? And does it qualify with pure of heart? Does it qualify as some other words? What would someone describe that person that did that act or that behavior be assigned meaning to? Would it correlate to the pure of heart? Who knows, right? Would it correlate to something else? And so other things that were on the trail too, like it said, there was a sign saying, do not like weed eat or something like that. And a little further up, I was like, well, that's curious. I wonder why they have this area off limits. I assumed, again, it was some sort of like, just simply based on my familiarity with different things of stewardship examples. I assumed that it was for some sort of like natural, like landscape type thing. Like the botanical gardens, you have like xeriscaping. I did it to my yard, like water, drought tolerant plants, native plants, pollinators, things like that. And maybe like 50 feet up in front of that, there was a sign saying like this area is like natural pollinators or natural flowers project or something like that. And along the way, you saw that in various places. And I thought that was extraordinary because it demonstrates the principles that are talked about in those signs. And along the prayer station, they're showing live examples of the effort, the outcome of believing in those principles are. And so even along the path, you saw little placards, like if you like a science museum or a botanical garden, identifying what you're even looking at. And I thought that was a beautiful touch for their landscape. Because not only, right, if someone has a moving moment with some sort of plant or piece of nature or flower, they can potentially have the ability to identify what it is right there at their fingertips and helps them resonate or create a deeper meaning and awareness and understanding of what that even, why that caught their attention in the first place, right? Because oftentimes when something catches your attention, you're curious about it, you want to learn more about it. And so having those little signs, one, not only serves a very basic fundamental purpose of being able to identify what you're looking at, but two, it creates an avenue for that curious person that comes across it to have more information to further explore and dive into whatever that is. And one thing that I thought was cool, this ties into, again, this is an example of how meaning arises, or symbolic layers can arise. Because I was walking down the path, and I happened to see like red and blue stones just randomly on the path. And I looked at them and I forgot what they said on them. It was a little bit faded, something about trusting God or things like that. But what it reminded me of is the Divine Mercy chaplet, because the red and white, you know, the typical image. Where is it at? I have the card here. This one, the Chaplet of Divine Mercy. This is the card I got when I first went to Bracketville. And it's got the red and blue, and seeing those rocks there, the red and blue, coincidentally happened to be there together. It automatically reminded me of Catholicism and this card, which triggered the memory of going to Bracketville, where I attended a mass. And it's just, again, ability to reflect and tie those things into personal experiences I have. That makes it more meaningful, right? Because if someone else out there were walking, they'd be like, oh, cool, just two rocks. They might not have even noticed them. But for me, it carried more meaning and symbolism because those two colors together, they're associated with different things. Actually, they're even associated with my, like, Jesus socks. It has the same image on it. That's why I bought those Jesus socks, because I love the imagery and the memories tied to when I first discovered that imagery. And so, what else did I enjoy? Again, I think one of my favorite parts of this was the trail, but like walking through it, you saw various examples of different levels of stewardship. It reminded me of the things I've talked about in previous videos, or even things that are listed in the Latter-day Saint Doctrine and Covenants and in the CCC for the Catholics. It's just taking care of your stuff. Are you responsible enough to handle opportunity? And then when that opportunity comes, what do you do with it? Do you demonstrate that you can handle more responsibility, or do you demonstrate, hey, maybe this is a nice place right now to like get more experience under your belt, get more opportunity under your belt before moving into a more depth of responsibility, of opportunity environment? And I saw that along that trail because, again, I saw like a bird bath that had like water in it. I saw new planted or like atypical shrubbery or greenery that was there that was protected for deer who couldn't get to it, so it was still trying to grow. To me, those are examples of stewardship, of being responsible, being aware of the environment of what you are creating meaning from, but also being aware that, hey, there's other living creatures, there's other life forms that also utilize this environment. How are we all going to coexist, and can we all demonstrate that everything matters, right? Everything has a balance. Because honestly,